Hey everyone, my name is Padam and I recently moved from Canada to Dubai, and I'm going to talk about how much it cost me. Now the costs can vary a lot if you're moving here because of your employer, if you're trying to set up your own company and then move. I did the latter. I set up my own LLC in a free zone. I think that's pretty common, and then I sponsored myself to come here. I used a service called GenZone for this. They basically did everything for me from A to Z, and they have a pretty big online presence. So if you do look them up, if you Google, you will be able to see what kind of services they offer. And I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but they genuinely were such a good service for me. I had an amazing experience with them that I'm happily recommending them to anyone watching this video. And for me, the total cost was split into two segments, I can say. One of them was for setting up my legal entity, the LLC, and then the other one was setting up my residency, being able to come here because UAE requires you to come in person to give biometrics and some medical tests so you can get your Emirates ID, etc. The first payment that I made to GenZone was roughly 5200 roughly 6600 Canadian dollars. This was basically inclusive of the cost to set up a business license and then their service fee on top. The second payment I did to them was once my company had been set up so that they could proceed with my residency visa so I could come to Dubai for those in-person things. And that payment was roughly 6600 Canadian, which makes it a total of around 13,000 Canadian dollars for their entire package of setting up a company and being able to move here. This also included a bunch of other costs like getting appointments for, like I said, biometrics and medical, which if you're moving through an employer, your employer will pay for you. So essentially the cost of all of that should be zero for you. Something that all of you would have to pay out of pocket is probably flight tickets, etc. But even before I came to that, I had to deal with a few things in Canada, like selling off my car. I had a car on a lease, got a Honda Accord 2 years ago, and basically ended the lease early because of the way interest works. Had to pay 4,000 Canadian dollars to get rid of my car. I was also on a lease, but I didn't want to be legally responsible for the house since I wasn't going to live there anymore. I did come to Dubai on a one-way ticket and I had no intention of going back to Canada. So I basically paid off rent in advance. My roommate is going to take over the house completely, and that was roughly 5,300 Canadian dollars. Now this is something that most people can avoid, both the car and the cost for the remainder of the lease, but at least for me that's what it cost me. The total cost at this point just to be able to leave Canada had come to around 22,000 Canadian dollars. Now when I came here, I had to of course get an Airbnb so I could stay for all those in-person processes, and also a couple other things like while I waited to get my Emirates ID and set up bank accounts, etc. So I booked an Airbnb for 4 weeks and got like a 20% discount because that's what Airbnb gives you if you're staying at a place for more than 28 days. That Airbnb cost me 3,700 Canadian dollars along with all of their Airbnb fees. I did end up ending my Airbnb around 10 days earlier than I was supposed to move out because I got a whole long-term lease that I showed in my previous video, and so I lost the long-term discount because I ended my stay before 28 days, but still I got roughly 450 Canadian dollars back. I also did book my flight to Dubai using points completely because I had around 300,000 Amex points that I would have had to transfer out to like different programs anyway because I'm no longer banking in Canada as I'm permanently living in Dubai now. But my flight at the time would have cost me, even using points, it cost me roughly 900 Canadian dollars, but the actual cost of the flight at the time, a direct flight from Toronto to Dubai, was around 1,300 Canadian dollars if I remember correctly, or 1,500, something like that. But for me, I'm gonna count it as 900 Canadian dollars, which is like the one-to-one conversion from points to money. Because I had to set up a company in Dubai, I also did have to register for tax purposes, register my company for VAT, which is like a sales tax in Dubai, and a bunch of other things that I would need for my company, like bookkeeping services, etc. So I partnered up with GenZone for that purpose too, and I paid them around 2,400 Canadian dollars to be able to use their accounting services. And all of this combined is the actual cost for me setting up a company and moving to Dubai, and it came to around 29,000 Canadian dollars, which I'll be putting up USD conversions, of course, but if I quickly convert it right now, it is around roughly 20,000 USD. I'd say that's a pretty good one-time cost if you're coming to a country like UAE where you have almost 0% personal income tax. I also owned a bunch of things back in my house in Canada. Basically anything that would have made my life comfortable because I'm a homebody, and I had to sell all of those things because I couldn't get anything with me here. If I do factor in the returns I got from those things being sold, I was able to sell things worth 8,000 Canadian dollars, and if I factor that in, like I said, it comes to the total remainder cost comes to around 22,000 Canadian dollars, which is 15k USD.